What are little boys made of? What are little boys made of? Slugs and snails and puppy dogs' tails, that's what boys are made of. What are little girls made of? What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and all that's nice, that's what girls are made of. Steve had known his partner for less than a year before they both decided to get married.
So I think maybe if we had waited another year, 2 years, we would have discovered, or another year would have discovered, that we weren't actually compatible.
What about, or where do you stand now within the marriage?
I'm not sure. It's very up and down at the moment. We're split up at the moment. She lives separately at the moment. I guess at the moment we're both just taking our time to see how we feel about the marriage while we're not so close together, and hopefully we'll come up with some answers. But I don't feel too hopeful.
Billy had been in a relationship for 10 years until his partner left him. She gave no forwarding address and he had no way of contacting her.
Just not waking up next to the same person, not having their presence, not having, the smell and the touch. First thing in the morning, last thing at night. It just, the urge seems to have departed altogether. But and I was hurt, very hurt. It's like the major part of my life, isn't it? From the age of 20 to 30. Yeah. For her, it's from the age of 18 to 28.
Gervais found himself separated from his partner after their 5-year-old relationship had ended.
So, and the end came very suddenly when she explained to me that she'd slept with somebody the previous day or something like that when I went round to see her.
Could you understand that at all?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, my reaction was, well, these things happen. I could see why, in view of the sort of lack of sexual activity between us, why that could happen. I felt as kind of like a sort of a pain in my guts at the moment it was said, and I may not have articulated that, but it certainly felt painful. But I wanted the whole thing to work. I was determined. I was determined that it was eventually we're going to get it onto a sound basis, our relationship. So, whilst it hurt, I wasn't fazed by it. But clearly, it had different repercussions for her. It meant something completely different.
When you were saying about guilt, where did that come in?
Where did the guilt come from? Oh, from previous infidelities and bad treatment by myself of her, from a history of that.
So you'd slept with other people?
Oh yeah, yes I had. Yeah. I'd made it plain when it had happened to her, but nevertheless I'd done it, and I'd, apart from sleeping with 2 or 3 other people over a period of, 4 or 5 years, I'd also behaved badly towards her in other ways, particularly in a social setting, in social groups, sort of ostracising or ignoring her in company.
Why do you think you did that?
Why did I do that? I think I was uneasy about being in love, being completely, totally and committedly in love with her.
After Gervaise's relationship had come to an end, he turned to Billy for support and friendship.
We didn't actually live with Gervais until we moved in here, but as soon as we were back in the country and made contact with him again, he was spending, you know, if he wasn't working the weekend, then he'd spend the whole weekend with us. And I mean, on the floor next to our bed, sort of thing, for the sort of, you know, we became a surrogate family, definitely.
Can you relate to any of those feelings that he was having then to how you feel now?
What, self-destructive drinking and all this sort of business. But
Well, he'd been left by somebody.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean,
but for him it was still local, and she was getting married to this skinhead sort of thing, you know. So I didn't have it slapped in the face nearly so much, and he was still living with mutual friends of hers and everything like that. Whereas in my case, she's flown the coop altogether, you know.
Where did you meet Gervaise's ex-girlfriend?
I met her at work.
Yeah.
I was working as a night care assistant at a homeless project, and she volunteered one night, and I remember we ended up being sat up together about 3 o'clock in the morning, playing Scrabble, and it turned out that she had an interest in snooker, which I was playing a lot of at the time, and she was the first girl I'd met for a long time that had an interest in snooker, and we just arranged to go out for a game of snooker the next night. So that was the first time I met her.
Did you know she was involved with someone else?
Not at all. I didn't know anything about her really at that point at all. I was totally blank.
So when did you find out that she'd...
You know, I really don't remember the first time. It all seems very vague, that period. I just remember hearing Gervaise's name mentioned, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it was. And like I say, my first real recollection was that night in the pub.
Can you tell me about when you first met Steve?
Yeah, I remember it very clearly. I'd arranged to go for a drink, celebrate somebody's birthday in a pub, and in the course of making the final arrangements, I was first made aware of his existence, and I said, "Who the hell's Steve?" And they said, "Oh, don't you know? Steve's going out with your ex," sort of thing. So I said, "Oh no, I didn't know that." But anyway, I thought about it and I went along. I went along to the pub in any case, and I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of dread or fear. I think he bought me a pint, and I said something polite to him, as one does.
Did he know who you were?
Did he know who I was? Well, I presume he did, because I presume my ex-lover had put him in the picture. But I was only just beginning to get to terms on that day with whom he might be.
Did you feel guilty at all, the fact that you had gone off with his girlfriend?
No, I don't think I did. I think it was a superior feeling I had, in a way. It was very selfish. I felt on a pedestal, in a way. And I guess I wanted to rub that into his nose. Not because I had any dislike for him, because I didn't know him. Just a male, well, just the way I am, maybe, and the way I was feeling at the time.
Where sort of, I guess, jealousy and stuff like that could come out. So I think I sort of went, well, I'm sure he's better in bed than me, for instance. I'm sure he's sexier than me, and I just left it at that. I mean, I think if you explore those sort of things, then that's where jealousy and sort of competitiveness can come out, and those feelings can become probably really quite strong.
Yeah.
So,
but did they? I mean, you're saying they can.
Yeah.
I mean, did they come
Did
out?
they?
Did you think he was probably, better in bed than you? And
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did. And then, did I explore those feelings any further? No, I didn't. I didn't explore those feelings any further. I didn't want to bring out more stuff that may be in here than I could deal with. I probably was not trying to cause myself too much pain.
Can I ask you how you feel about me now?
About you?
A year and a half, 2 years on from...
I feel a sort of an acquaintance.
But I always feel, I've already said, I always feel there's some sort of gap, some sort of distance between us when we're talking,
Well, yeah.
some sort of defensiveness when we're talking.
Yeah, well, there is on my part. There is
yeah.
on my part, certainly. I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation in the Nag's Head one night, and I said that you represented sort of nemesis,
Yeah,
or some sort of fate
I remember that, yeah.
thing, which was the main feeling. To be honest, I wasn't sort of disguising anything else. That was the main thing. It was like a doom feeling.
8 for 2. What does he get?
Oh shit, well, 6. 12 for 6.
Yeah. Gervais is winning. He's the only one who doesn't know the fucking rules of the game.
He's doing the business.
Attitudes towards women obviously varied between the three men, although many of the things that had influenced them were similar, from teenage peer pressure to that of the male role model they grew up with.
From a very early age, I was aware of a very domineering, overpowering father figure, which I found very difficult, and which I think probably affected my view of women, in that women were intellectually sort of inferior, not up to the same tasks. There's some sort of tacit sort of, I picked up some sort of tacit criticism of women, particularly of the mother.
so, what were your parents' relationship like?
My mum and dad?
Mm.
Well, when I was a teenager, they were fighting all the time. I mean, my dad was he was violent. He did knock her about an awful lot. I mean, I'm not worried if he ever sees this film, because I've had it all out with him. I reduced him to tears on the bar, this is quite recently, because he just didn't believe. I mean, he denied some of the things that he did, but I can remember as a very small kid, my mum getting me out of bed and holding her in front of her to try have a shield, you know what I mean? Because I would stand up to him, and getting knocked out the way so that he could knock her, give her another one. But so that was his attitude to women, and they do what they're bloody told,
I've got a lot to answer for.
Yeah. I think I paid my father back when I was old. I mean, my great ambition as a child was to be big enough to beat him up.
Yeah.
To handle your dad.
Yeah. And I never.
Yeah, I know that.
I got big enough to do that.
Still couldn't handle my dad.
I
still bigger than me.
Yeah.
I got big enough to do that, but I never actually, because I felt
Did it?
sorry for him.
Yeah, you never
So
did
what
it.
I did was I actually went off with, when he divorced so my stepmother divorced him. I actually went off with her.
Yeah.
She became attracted to me, and that was, I didn't find her attractive, but that was my revenge.
Yeah.
And I have a 4.5-year-old daughter through that, which is very complicated, because to my father, this child is his daughter, but I know for a fact it's actually my daughter.
Yeah.
So it's actually my half sister and my daughter, and it's a very complicated set of circumstances. And this to me is still my revenge on my father.
Revenge?
Yeah, for the things he did to me. And I
Funny
still
way
have
of getting back at him.
even though he's now a born again Christian.
There's no way of getting back at him.
Well, that's the way I did get at him.
Perhaps it's in your own head, I don't know.
What about your dad's attitude towards women? Do you think that influenced you in any way? Or?
Yeah, but I mean, it was a whatever he said, did, or thought was definitely wrong. It was like a negative influence, very much so. Mm. So I mean, you might not think I'm much of a feminist, but you know.
Why'd you say that?
Well, I mean, I do use sexist jargon occasionally.
Did you at all feel that there was any parallels, like with your father? You know, you were saying your father.
Yeah,
was
but that's why
violent.
I've never ever struck another woman in my life, because I was brought up in an environment where mum could quite often never go out at the weekend. Mm. Firstly, because she wasn't asked, and secondly, because she didn't want to go out with a shiner. Mm. You know. I mean, it wasn't like she was always terrified of him coming home from work. It wasn't that bad. I mean, most of the time they were arguing about us. Me and my brother were just such, typical teen rebels and staying out all night and all this sort of thing. They were fighting over us because she was giving us our beer money. You know what I mean? And she was, she loved us. She loved us very much, and it was quite obvious she was only staying with him all that time because she had two sons that she loved very much, and she wanted to make a home for them, And I thought they would split up as soon as me and my brother left home, but they didn't at all, and now they're very lovey-dovey.
I was never given magazines. I mean, I would look at them if I had the opportunity. I guess just through watching dirty movies that my father would show me, because he felt it was important that I should be chip off the old block and all this sort of thing. He used to show me films when I was younger, but I guess this steered me away from it, because those films don't show a loving and caring relationship. They just show the harsher side of things, and as a first image, it's not very reassuring.
We were very bad. We used to steal pornographic literature from Centre News and sell it to the younger kids. I mean, it wasn't getting a question of being. I mean, obviously, I must have been shown one initially, but I mean, when I was a second year, I was already selling pornography to the first years. So, I was active very quickly after being passive as far as pornography was concerned. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that obviously put a lot of horrible ideas into my head about sex.
But what sort of ideas?
Oh, just, if you've ever read the stories in these things, that women really do prefer it up the bum and stuff like this,
When did you, at what point do you think you started to think, oh, well, this isn't what women want?
When I had a serious relationship with a very nice girl, who certainly didn't want to have the bum. Oh dear me. Yeah. You mean, when did I start being a bit more right on about it? Yeah, when I was 15, 16, I knew all that was rubbish. Mm. Yeah.
Did you ever compare yourself to the men within those sort of stories? I mean, did you think you had to be a particular way? Or?
Well, I mean, it's not usually the stories in porn mags don't really talk about much about the men, do they? The members they do in porn mags for women, but I haven't read one. So.
The only real contact I had with women when I was younger was just through family contact, really. My mother, my sister, grandparents. And then I went to boarding school for 4 years, which was all boys. So I had no idea about sex or women really at all. They were just people in the next school, because we had a girls' school next door, so I had no idea about sex until I was about 16. Really.
And what was that?
Well, that was just leaving boarding school and going to a secondary school, being thrown into this suddenly with girls everywhere, and the peer pressure from the other lads there that, I had sex when I was 13, 12, and they know what, and I didn't, and I would pretend oh, I've had sex and all this, but I didn't know anything about it. So I found that period very scary for me, because I didn't want to feel, I wanted to fit in with everyone else. I didn't want them to know. I'd feel stupid if they knew. So really, from the ages of, well, from being born to sort of the ages of about 15, I had very small contact with women.
And after that?
Lots of contact, really. I think I met my first girlfriend when I was just turned 16, and we had sex first about 6 months later, and I didn't tell her that I'd never had sex before, and I managed to get her to initiate the sex process so that I didn't actually have to do anything, because I didn't have a clue what was going on. So I managed to get her to do everything, and I guess from that moment onwards it all became, well, trophy hunting in a way, if you know what I mean. To sleep as many girls as you could, more girls than your friends did, and things like this, or certain girls and stuff like this. And looking back, I regret all that, because it's like a, because I'm not like that. I think I've changed completely in the last 5 years, and I look back at that person, and it's not someone that I'm now, not someone I'd like to ever be again, because I just think it's an unfair way to treat people, and it was a very arrogant way of behaving, and I guess the person I'd always tried to get away from acting like my father, I guess I was acting without knowing it, like he would have acted at his age, and like he did when he was in the marriage with my mother.
So what images of women were you presented with at school, for instance?
Later on at school, apart from your mother, the main images of women at school, I mean, a lot of your images were, for me, were formulated through pornography, you know, or well, in the sense that here was a sexual image of a woman in an all-male environment, and seemed prepared in a sort of two-dimensional sense to offer sexual gratification through the pages of a magazine or something like that. Other women were very distant. Maybe there were two women teachers at the school I went to. Your mother, other people's mothers, all of whom were different from that naturally.
Mm. Did you think they were different though from the images you'd seen, or did you connect them?
Did I connect the images
at all with, say, like if you've seen a woman with no clothes on in a magazine?
Yeah.
Would you think your mother might look like that?
You wouldn't think your own mother, but you might think somebody else's mother.
Mm.
Yeah, well, me. I mean, not you.
Mm.
You'd. I never took it to that sort of parallel, to that kind of superimposing it so that it coincides, that image of a woman, not with my mother. Never saw my mother as being a sexual person. Other people's mothers, well, yes, on the very fringes perhaps of your sexual fantasy, other people's mothers, but on balance, a different archetype, a different type of woman on the pages of the glossy magazine from your friend's mother. Overall.
Did you start to split women up then into different categories, do you think?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Not just those two categories that I've mentioned and the blurring perhaps with your friend's mother, but the perception, even if you didn't come into them very often, of girls of your own age, as I don't remember thinking of them in the pornographic archetype. I remember thinking of them as rather mysterious, rather distant beings who, you know, wouldn't want to talk to me, for instance, or, you know, there was no sort of scope for communication, no possibility, no contact whatsoever.
What were your experiences sexually then?
My sexual experience up until the age of 18 was of sex on my own, apart from one sexual encounter with a man who was much older.
And where was that? Was that at school or?
No, it wasn't actually. It was in Portsmouth. It was in. It was completely out of the blue in the course of going to a career interview from school, when I should have been at school, with the Royal Navy at Gosport near Portsmouth, and I missed the last train back to London, or the last train back to Lancashire where I was at school. So I was approached and asked to if I had anywhere to stay, and of course I hadn't. And I stayed at this guy's house, his flat, and I would think I was probably 16, 17 then. He made advances to me which I didn't resist.
Gervais spoke at ease about his gay experiences, but would Billy and Steve be as open or as relaxed with homosexuality?
You ever sucked a man's willy?
No. But I've had a man do it to me. But
It was forced on you?
no, it wasn't forced. I was drunk. I collapsed drunk. And I woke up and he was doing it. And my first reaction, I punched him in the face.
Yeah.
I remember being poised. The first time I mentioned this, I was poised with the question: would I have reacted the same if it had been a female doing this to me?
Yeah.
And I have to admit, honestly, I think that I would have reacted totally differently.
He was sucking your dick.
If I'd wake up and it was a female
He
doing this.
wasn't trying to stick it up here.
No, I wasn't trying to stick it up me, just
He was
sucking my dick. He was actually sucking my
right,
dick.
so
And I just punched him in the face because that was my first reaction to
Yeah.
seeing it was a male doing it. And
Yeah.
It was a violent reaction. And I was posed a question: if it had been a female sucking my
What would
dick,
you have done?
would I have reacted the same? And I think my first reaction was, oh yeah, I'd have reacted the same, but being truthful, and I think I admitted to this afterwards that
Yeah.
I would have probably just let it happen.
Yeah. I've had a lot of my sexual initiation, none of which was at school, paradoxically enough, although it was an all-boys school, but in one incident outside school and in the Navy was my sort of initiation into sex, other than with myself, was through male contact.
Yeah.
And I was quite different. I was sort of voluntarily participating, except for the first incident on its own when I was scared.
Yeah.
The rest of the time I was experimenting. I saw it as a sort of stepping stone.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's important. I mean, I think it's important that you experiment with every aspect of it. But I mean, just the way I was brought up gave me a biased view straight away. I was brought up with a biased view of these things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure. Sure, I was.
And
as
I know
well.
now. I mean, I think if I was ever going to have any homosexual tendencies, they would have
surfaced by
they'd
now.
have surfaced by now, and I don't have any. I'm sure.
Yeah.
My dad said that when the population gets too big, the species, whichever species it is, starts producing queers as a way to
Oh right, to cut down population.
to limit the population. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of his theories.
What about your experiences with men?
Oh, I loved them all. I mean, you know.
Were they mainly at school or afterwards?
Oh, yeah. When it was when I was at school. Yeah, but I mean, I was very good friends and very supportive with my mates, and we were put in these ridiculous positions. You know, sort of, doing military exercises. Messing about on Salisbury Plain.
Oh yeah.
Literally, and we were cold, damp.
Yeah.
Covered in camouflage, cream, and
Black stuff, blackout.
yeah, and having to sit in this dugout in the middle of the night, and we were drawn together, we were huddled together already, so and it became sexual. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, and I loved every minute of it.
Was it a rite of passage for you?
Mutual blowjobs.
Yeah. Was it a rite of passage for you, or was it like?
No. No. We all knew everything about it. No.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a revelation or anything. No. We all knew everything about it beforehand.
Yeah. Nothing.
Because at
no
school
worries
there was
about the stigma. No worries about the sort of
none whatsoever. None whatsoever. It was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I'm quite proud of it afterwards. Yeah.
We were living together in a flat, perhaps in slightly cramped circumstances, but I was feeling cramped in the relationship. In that I was acting out, sort of. Or I was withdrawing from her. I was being awkward. I was setting up, arguments, for instance, disputes, anything that appeared to put the whole thing on a rocky basis. And so I can't remember with the lead up, but something happened late one night. A heated argument, a heated discussion, an exchange, and from my behaviour, my lover became upset, distraught, frustrated, and angry with, an accumulation of things that had probably been going on for weeks. And became tearful and angry and was shouting at me, and so I hit her around the face. So I it's as if I set up that situation and then stepped in, as if to be a self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of violence. I mean, the behaviour, it felt, looking at it now, it felt like the behaviour itself was violent, whether or not I would have hit her, setting up a mood, an aura, an atmosphere of intimidation, and of putting her in a position where she didn't know where she stood. And I belted her on that occasion, and I see now what I did and what was going on.
How did you feel afterwards, after you did her?
Well, I didn't feel good with myself, but I didn't spot what exactly had happened. I didn't see what I'd set in motion. I didn't clearly see what my motivations were. So I felt frustrated, at least on some level, and I went through with the physical violence.
What was this relationship like then with this woman? Can you tell me about it?
It was quite a violent relationship. She had a small boy aged about 4, and she was working at the time in a nursing home as a cleaner. I wasn't working, and when she was out of work, the boy would cause me endless trouble because I don't think he welcomed my presence. I think he'd had lots of father figures over the time, and I wasn't very welcome as another sort of father figure into the home. And I would punish him by not letting him watch TV or not letting him have a biscuit or something trivial like this. But as soon as she came home and realised, he would run to her and say that I'd done these things, and her reaction would be very violent. And one time I remember particularly that she threw a kettle of boiling water over me, which obviously caused me a lot of. I was in a lot of pain and ended up in hospital with that one. And another time, I was getting some stuff out of a wardrobe, and she slammed the wardrobe door shut on my head a few times. I had to have stitches in my head. So that relationship was Again, I stayed in the relationship because I had nowhere else to go, and it was a home. Even though not a very pleasant home, it was a home, and I grabbed onto it. But it was a very hard relationship, obviously, to stay in.
Have you ever been in any other relationships that have been violent?
No.
It wasn't a very conscious attack at all. We woke up in the morning and I said, "What the fuck happened to you?" And she didn't know. And it'd been, I was chefing in this restaurant, and we had a English kitchen porter who was leaving, who was moving on to a kibbutz, and he was leaving the taverna that we were working in. And we went out on the piss that night to say goodbye. With every beer we had, he gave us a free tequila slammer, and we don't remember who drove home or whatever, because we were right out in the sticks, and you had to have a trials bike to get to our house, and we can't remember who drove home. We've got vague memories of me just like hitting her to shut her up. I don't know what she was screaming about. We didn't remember, but we woke up in the morning, there was blood up the walls, and she had a beautiful shiner and a big fat lip. And it was the last day of school. She had to go in the next day, that morning, and go and collect her papers and get her final month's pay, and all her national insurance documents and stuff like that. So she had to go wearing sunglasses, and they went, "What happened to you?" She said, "Slipped on the kitchen floor." But out there, women do get clobbered when they speak out a line anyway, so it was accepted. But
how did you feel about it though?
Oh, can't you imagine? I mean, just like, obviously, absolute, deep remorse, obviously.
What are little boys made of? What are little boys made of? Slugs and snails and puppy dogs' tails, that's what boys are made of. What are little girls made of? What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and all that's nice, that's what girls are made of.
If you get back with your wife, or if you don't, do you think that you could fall in love again, or do you think that's...
Yeah, I'm sure I could fall in love again. I don't know if I want to, but I'm sure I probably will if we don't get back together again.
I sent her a card.
Did you?
Just to say, don't worry, I'm not going to come down and look for you and everything. Because I've found out through the grapevine where she is and what she's doing and everything. I mean, I've had nothing from her. And everybody's, mutual friends have said, "Oh, we know where she is," but she says she doesn't want you to know. Because apparently she's had all these terrible nightmares that I'm going to come down and strangle her. I did have a bit where it was like, if I can't have you, no one else is going to, and I did put a pillow over her face at one point and stuff like that. So.
And what happened? Was she asleep or?
At the time, no. But I restrained myself in the end, and obviously she's still alive.
Yeah. What would you have liked to have happened if you'd have stayed together? Carry on as you were, or?
Of course, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I still live in hope, man.
Do you think you will be again?
What, violent?
Mm.
I think I've changed. I don't think you can ever say you'll never do something again. But, I mean, I think I know how to be content and how now to work out how I feel about things and what things are affecting me that need to be sorted out. I think it's less likely. I think it's long odds against now.
Because you started having a relationship now, haven't you, with somebody else?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's fairly recent, but very, certainly going places, very vibrant, and so far as you can tell, you know, one where you're not introducing blocks and not introducing sort of time bombs to fuck it up later. So yes, I am in a relationship now, and no, I don't feel violent. I don't feel the same reservations now that I've had before.
And I didn't think her ladyship was comparing either, but it turned out she was. So, you know.
I think on a rational level, you sort of say, oh, you know, it's not important, but on a gut reaction level, I think you there's other things at work. You know,
definitely.
And you don't sort of let go of those prejudices or those what you've been told easily.
That's right.
After all, it's the same tabloids who tell you that it's not, that it doesn't matter, that the ones that probably reinforce
the image,
that it is important in the first place.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah. Are we all supposed to be like horses or what though?